Hi, I'm Abner Germanow. I'm IDC's Director of Enterprise Networks, and today I'm going to talk about trends in enterprise networking and how to build a next-generation network. So, as we begin, let's talk about the trends that are driving networking spending. If we look at overall IT growth, servers last year grew about 6% globally, packaged software around 8%, storage around 6.2%, and then enterprise networks at 17%. And so, well, why is that? Well, there are 5 big reasons. So the first one is voice and video, and voice and video is by far the biggest driver of network spending today, as driving network spending past IT growth. The reason why this is such a big deal on the network is because we're changing the fundamental reliability in the network, so what used to be good enough is no longer acceptable. Second of all, if that wasn't bad enough, all of a sudden you have to tune the network to deal with latency and jitter. It's not just availability, but also the ability to tune the network so that the voice traffic gets to where it needs to go as fast as possible with as little as latency as possible. So let's talk about the bandwidth hog, which is video. And the big deal with video is that, yes, you continue to have this availability and latency problem, but you also have a bandwidth problem. And all of the different types of video, whether it's training or surveillance or conferencing, they're all converging on the IT department, whereas they used to live out in the security group or in independent business units in a very departmental fashion. So video is coming, and it's actually coming faster than voice. The second thing that's driving network spend faster than the rest of IT is network-based business. When you think about network-based business, they're these guys that we know, right? The dot-com companies that that grew up in the late 90s and now represent the flagship online businesses, whether it's Google or Yahoo. But there are a whole slew of other businesses that I think are really interesting. And these are people for whom their classic business was not online. Now they've gone online and they have an online application that's network dependent that drives a significant competitive advantage for them, and their business can't exist without that application. If you're not playing in this, you're losing out in a variety of different ways, and we've seen this shift in terms of attitudes in IT as people have moved from IT as a real cost center to IT as a competitive advantage. The number 3. Intelligent networks are winning. And what do we mean by that? Well, if we were just talking about dumb pipes, then the trade magazines would be filled with comparison studies of who has greater port density, who can push more packets through their box faster than the next guy. And yeah, some of that is definitely important. That's table stakes in this market. We need to know how to secure the infrastructure. We need to know how to mobilize people both within the building and out in the field. They need to know how to bring voice onto the network and build a single platform across multiple communications applications. And then we need to deliver all the applications that we have to branch offices and remote employees and wherever people are out on the network. And so when we look at the discrete spending on each of these 4 areas, that comes up to about 8 or 9 billion in spending. So that's significant, but at the same time, what people don't talk about as much are those speeds and feeds that represent the $22.5 billion in switch and router spending. The fourth point is endpoint growth. Endpoints continue to grow very rapidly, and obviously the more things that you connect to the network, the more the network plays a role in all the stuff that's out there. And the network is changing from connecting mainframes and PCs to all the way up to RFID tags and mobile devices and surveillance cameras and point of sale devices. There's a lot more stuff being connected to the network, which is driving a lot more traffic, but the amount that each user is connected to the network is increasing as well. So maybe 10 years ago, the only network traffic that you created was while you were in the office. 5 years ago, the traffic that you created was in the office and in the home, and now you create traffic all the time. So number 5, virtualization. Wouldn't be a good IT presentation without the word virtualization this year. You have everything from software to servers to storage, and as all of these resources either consolidate or disaggregate, the network plays a role in that consolidation. So let's look at server consolidation. I talked to a CIO last week who's thinking about going to 20 to 1. Then that's a really big win in terms of the server costs and power and cooling, and even the number of ports that you need on the core switch. Each one of those ports, as you drive from what used to be 10 servers and 10 ports down to one physical server and one port, that drives the importance of each port way up. So when you design a network, there are 3 primary variables that go into what you're trying to achieve in any particular location in the network. In some places, you need a lot of scale in order to connect lots of clients or servers. In other places, you need heavy amounts of control and reliability. And in other places, you need a lot of performance. In most places, you want some combination of all of these 3. I can guarantee you that sometime across the next 5 years, one of these variables is going to change on your network. And so the thing that you need to keep in mind when you're designing a network is to say, not if one of these things changes, what do I do, but rather when one of these things changes, what am I going to do? So if we look at the IT technologies that are all enabling very dense compute and storage environments, and that in turn is taking the network to a network that's global, that's reliable, and very high performance.